Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. The BRICS nations and the observers came out with a signed common declaration in Kazan, Russia. So the BRICS summit is hosted by Russia with Putin, who's isolated, and they came out with a declaration. I will talk about what's in the declaration. That's after I show you how these guys in the West try to very much downplay the formation of the second club. I said this for at least 2 years, that Russia, on the framework, the foundation of BRICS, will create the club of the very good. And I said many times before that this is a confirmation of what I said many times. I'm not putting a medal because it was too obvious. And these guys will come out one day with a communique, with a decision, with a declaration, where they de facto, they create a different, separate club, outside of Al Capone's club. So, this is the moment. This is the declaration. Now, I'm going to start first with one article where these guys, the media operatives, are telling you that don't worry, there is nothing. Well, we've been told this many times before. The cat is here. There's the first one. Many times before they were told that, oh, don't worry about China and Russia's talking with one another. There's nothing. They are in a de facto alliance. Oh, don't worry about, North Korea and Iran and Russia. And no. Now they're together. I made a video a minute ago where the Duma, the Russian parliament, ratified the treaty between North Korea and Russia, which is a de facto, not de facto, and de jure and de facto alliance, right there. So all this, because these guys were too concerned with self-identification and sex and all that, gender, and in the meantime, those guys did what they did best. And that could also help you understand what's going on in the Middle East with this one. But I know it's a far-fetched for some, but for others is a understanding of who's who and what's what. So let's start with this first article. Ukrainska Pravda. Russia receives no, that's zero. When it's no, that's zero. International support at BRICS summit. Is that so? Remember, no means zero. It's not much, little, no, it's no. Let's see what these guys are saying. And then I'm going to come and counter. The adoption of the Kazan Declaration, and I have it right here, from Russia Today. On October 23rd, the second day of the BRICS summit in Kazan, Tatarstan, has shown that Russia has not yet secured international support nor created the alternative security structure the Kremlin wants. Okay, so this is the thesis, the statement. And now we're going to find out the evidence. And this comes from Institute for the Study of War, which is owned by Keegan, which is the sister-in-law of Victoria Nuland. All a tribe's endeavor. Go and look at International Study of War and you're going to find Miss Keegan with her husband, brother with that guy, the guy married with Victoria Nuland. The declaration asserts that all signatories must adhere to the principles of the UN Charter, including respect for international integrity, and that BRICS countries welcome relevant mediation offers to promote a peaceful resolution of the war through dialogue and diplomacy. Ukraine has emphasized that the principles of the UN Charter are central to achieving peace, underscoring the illegal nature of Russian The Ukrainian minister said, okay, I'm trying to find out where they didn't receive anything. The Ukrainian MFA noted the declaration shows, again, that's a thesis statement, is not an evidence to support it, shows states are not unified. Right? Why? In support of Russia's war against Ukraine. Likely because, why are they not unified? You have the evidence? I would like to hear the evidence. Maybe this last paragraph of this thesis will support the two statements of this garbage. One, are not unified in support, just declaration statements, not backed by anything, in support of Russia's war against Ukraine. Likely because many of these countries uphold the principle. Likely. What is likely? Likely I'm going to fly tomorrow to the moon. Or unlikely. No, you will never fly. All right. Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service. Again, this is the last paragraph that they have a chance to tell us. Services similar assessed It's not an evidence, it's assessed. It's like conclusion. I make an assessment of something. This is my conclusion. Doesn't mean that the conclusion cannot be false, that the BRICS summit will not lead to the international community endorsing Russia's desired alternative system of international settlements. Well, we'll find out. It also noted that India, the United Arab Emirates, Brazil, and South Africa opposed efforts to turn BRICS into an anti-US coalition. There's no such a thing. They never said that. But let's go to the next one. This is an article from yesterday. John Kirby on why BRICS poses no real threat to the US and its allies. I covered this on a video yesterday. I'm not going to go over it, but to say this. Either these guys are trying to calm us down, don't create panic, that actually when the BRICS will have and they have 60% of their transactions are not in US dollars. That's bad. When the US dollars is not going to be the currency that we're going to be traded with oil, the petrodollar, then we're going to be fucked. And the Russians, and not only Putin, the Russians and the Chinese, all these guys will work against it. Why? Because of the being afraid of sanctions. And we're going to discuss that with what BRICS statement says. So Kirby either is a baboon, which I don't think he is in this case. He just tries to calm us down. There's nothing. The same. China and the Russia alliance is nothing. Really? Look what it evolved to be. And I say the world community. BRICS can have, if they want, in 1 year, more member states than NATO and the European Union have. So what are you talking about? The US plantation is formed of about original plantation, which you take NATO, and if you want the European Union and United States of America, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, South Korea, and Japan, and Palau and Paraguay. If you take all these guys, you're gonna get to no more than 45 states out of 194 states. So that would leave how much? 150 states out there. So 150 and you got here 45. And 150, if the Russians want, they can have about 45 in 1 year if they want. So equal this one. So far BRICS has more GDP than the G7 countries. Industrialized, come on, the cat is here. So, okay, let's go now to the what the BRICS declaration now. All right, Russia Today, here it is. New centers of power. I know this could be only words and over-exaggeration. Sovereign equality and Western coercion. So that's not against the United States of America whatsoever, right? What's in the BRICS Kazan declaration? So these are the Russians here with Lavrov and so on. All right, new centers of power. So the BRICS nations approved. So the BRICS, all BRICS nations, though the other guys said they are not all together. A joint communique on Wednesday during the group's 3-day summit in the Russian city of Kazan. The document addresses multiple global crises and challenges as call for a fairer and more just international order against the US's hegemony. So what are those guys talking about in this little garbage? What are they talking? All right. New center of power. The group reaffirmed affirmed its commitment to promoting a multipolar world. That means not United States owned, where all nations have an equal say in global affairs. I think that will not happen. Well, the strong countries will maintain their power. They have to be a little bit more equal than others. This is reflected in the declaration's call for greater representation of emerging and developing countries in international institutions. Got that? Next one. Or the BRICS countries welcome the growing influence of regional organizations such as African Union and Shanghai Cooperation Organizations. These guys are going to come to the BRICS. They're going to come in, I don't know if they're going to give a name to this new club, but they will bring all these organizations and cooperations and together with BRICS, and then you're going to see we are left in the dust. These organizations are viewed as an important platforms for promoting economic cooperation. When you hear security, that's military, okay? And cultural exchange. The declaration also called for a strengthening World Trade Organization to resolve trade disputes and an expanded UN Security Council to provide greater representation for Global South. 2. Sovereign equality and new BRICS partners. Sovereign equality. That means somehow we have to be equal, but some of us will be The group emphasized that all countries have the right to pursue their own development paths and decisions about international affairs without interference from other states, mainly the United States of America with its four diplomatic tools: threats, blackmail, regime change, and bombardment. These are the US's diplomatic tools since 1991. Unfortunately, why? Because they can. They said, I'm the strongest here, I can smack whomever. I'm not going to be the enlightened philosopher that they said they are. No, they are actually cavemen. And now you have these guys ganging against them. It's a reaction. All right, so that's another one. Opposing Western coercive measures. What was that over here? It's not opposed to BRICS anti-US. No. So these guys, and this is what these guys say. The declaration condemns all sanctions and unilateral coercive measures as incompatible with international law, highlighting the far-reaching implications for human rights. But this is by everybody in the BRICS, not some oppose. We are deeply concerned about the disruptive efforts of unlawful unilateral coercive measures, including illegal sanctions, on the world economy, international trade, and the achievement of sustainable development goals. Remember, China has sanctions against it, Russia has against it. Whomever these guys don't like, they sanction you. So don't you think these guys gang around the ones who throw sanctions left and right? I never heard Romania sanctioning anybody. Did you hear that? Unless they're told by the Americans. Then they sanction. I never heard Hungary unless they're told by someone. And so on, in Germany. Well, nobody sanctions US, it seems like. All the group also condemns unilateral measures introduced under the pretext of climate and environmental concerns. I love that 100%. And opposes, and I'm quoting, unilateral protectionist measures that deliberately disturb global supply and production chains and distort competition. But hey, we like capitalism. Didn't have revolutions to support capitalism and democracy? Now, non-discriminatory trade in local currencies. The dollar is fucked. All these, remember, that the first one, the document right here. The BRICS nations approved a joint communique. All of them. And I'm quoting, we recognize the widespread benefit of faster, low-cost, more efficient, transparent, safe, and inclusive cross-border payment instruments based on minimizing trade barriers and ensuring non-discriminatory access. Remember when the Americans kicked the Russians out of SWIFT? Thought that the ruble will die? There you have it. That's because of that. This is a consequence of us, the good people. I'm talking about the government. But the government have elected officials, elected by the American people. So I'm quoting again. We welcome the use of local currencies in financial transactions between BRICS countries and their trading partners. It continues, calling for the establishment of a BRICS cross-border payments initiative. But these guys said, don't worry, no real threat to the US and its allies. Your dollar will be fucked up. What are you talking about, Kirby? The document also supports the BRICS New Development Bank's financial projects in local currencies, not US, and it's growing into a premier multilateral development institution. The Middle East. Now we have the Americans thinking they're still the bosses. They will not. We reiterate our grave concern of the deterioration of the situation and humanitarian crisis in occupied Palestine territory. By whom? With the help of whom? In particular to the unprecedented escalation of violence in Gaza Strip and the West Bank as a result of the Israeli military offensive. It's clear what these guys are, who are they blaming and what are they saying? It calls on Hamas to immediately release its Israeli hostages and Israel to immediately halt military operations and withdraw from Gaza. Israel bombing, boom. The document condemns the BRICS countries condemn the illegal foreign military presence in Syria, a reference to the roughly 800 US troops still in the country against Damascus' wishes. Damascus' wishes is Bashar al-Assad, who is a legitimate leader of Syria. They're not over there invited, the troops are not invited at the legitimate government's request. That means you are an occupying force. You are an imperialistic power, aren't you? No, we're not, because we identify as good. But you can't identify yourself as good. Only we can assign you or ascribe you an identification. Why? Because that's the way we think. Very logical and very fair and just. And denounce Israel's bombing of the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital. You got it? Which killed Iranian Brigadier General Bababab and 8 other Iranian military officers. They don't say anything about Iran bombing Israel, do they? It's clear. Ukraine. Now this is the most important one in the last paragraph. At the BRICS, nations have adopted a policy of neutrality regarding the Russian-Ukraine conflict. The declaration did not commit the group to backing either side. Fantastic, that's not their job. Instead, it stressed that, and I'm quoting, all states should act consistently with the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter and acknowledge relevant proposals of mediations and good offices aimed at the peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. This lead is similar to a declaration released last month by Brazil, China, and a dozen other members of the Friends of Peace group, which called for a, I'm quoting, comprehensive and lasting settlement to the conflict. Kiev, however, has rejected all that. Russia, of course. The Kazan summit, the declaration paid little attention to the Ukrainian crisis. It is not the central issue. It's not for the economic bloc. According to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, and I'm quoting, yes, this is an important issue on the Russian agenda, but it is far from being the central issue for BRICS, and it was reflected exactly as much as it's supposed to be on the BRICS agenda. So who are the adults in the room? Kirby and the other guys, or these evil guys? Well, you make your own choice, your determination. And I'm going to show you the last article, and with this one I will end this video. Coming from Sputnik. BRICS Summit Declaration is, quote-unquote, inflection point, redefining international politics. That's exactly what I think. It's a defining point where you have United Emirates. Right here you got India's Modi, you got Xi Jinping, you got Ramaphosa of South Africa, and poor Lula could not show because he supposedly got injured at his back of the head. Someone hit him, stay home. The BRICS bloc adopted the final declaration of its summit in Kazan. The document outlined the group's push to make bold reforms in global institutions, global, I said alternate, strengthening cooperation and respond collectively to global crisis. Produced by whom? Sputnik asked leading Asia, and we're not going to go, but this is what it says, containing 134 points. So, political energy strengthening, and here it is, creating a more just and democratic world order. What do you mean? Is not under US leadership that way? No. Enhancing cooperation for global and regional stability and security, that is, protecting against the Al Capone. Fostering economic and financial cooperation. You should read, we're going to get out of the petrodollar. And strengthening people-to-people exchange for social and economic development. The same thing. So, my friends, I think this is the moment where these guys came out and said, we are an organization that will have our own way and we disagree with your way. So what are you going to do? The ball is clip on your side of the court. What the Americans are going to do? I already told you. There's nothing. We're going to bomb them one by one. We're going to get them in a small dark alley. We're going to, motherfucker, give me the fucking money right now. We're going to... That's what they're going to do one by one by one by one. They're going to start to threaten, blackmail, and some regime change. This happened already in the past 2 years. So there were some attempts in Georgia. There were some attempts in other parts of the world. They did it successfully, I would say, in a smooth one in Argentina. And but the Russians did not stay behind together with the Chinese in Africa and South America. So I think the gloves are off, and these guys cannot believe, and I think they either live in a denial or they just are desperate, but have to keep the lead down with their operatives, knowing, fuck, we're fucked. These guys we underestimated these guys. We did. We thought they would not be able to have the courage to get together. We thought they were going to fuck Russia up in 1 week, and they didn't. Russia would have solved the problem in Ukraine in 2 weeks if NATO would not have gotten involved. So all these things with this and that, no, without NATO in there, 2 weeks, Ukraine would have, we want peace. That's what happened in Istanbul. But hey, NATO said, no, order from the boss, you gotta do it. And they shot themselves in the feet all the way with their, 13, 14 round of sanctions and all that. And who's gonna lose? You. You pay more for your energy, you have a higher inflation, and you have some big fat cats in the international banking system the energy sector in big corporations, and then you obviously have the arms manufacturing companies, okay? And you have a worse standard of living. And besides, you're going to have the renewable energy that is not going to be able to support your standard of living in the Western countries as you know it. Go back in the caves. But they will not. You will, and I. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.